Wolves find themselves bottom of the Premier League then at the World Cup break, but have just appointed one of Europe's most highly regarded coaches in Julen Lopetegui. Will this break now provide an opportunity to stop, reflect, think about how they're going to get themselves out of this mess that they find themselves in? Because this squad is a strong squad. It just seems to be lacking a little bit of firepower. Today, we're going to put ourselves into those shoes of Lopetegui with 22 matches left to play in the Premier League season. We're going to see if we can turn around Wolves' fortunes by making the correct signings and rebuilding this squad to see if we can avoid relegation, and then maybe from there, seeing how far we can go. Can we get Wolves back towards the top of that Premier League table and further away from the bottom? Let's get into it. Hello, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another rebuild on the channel then. And the subject of today's is going to be Wolverhampton Wanderers. Wolves find themselves in a bit of a pickle, don't they? They're bottom of the league. As I said in the intro, they are on just 10 points from 16 games. They're in a relegation fight this season. It has to be said. It's the first time really they've been in this situation since coming back to the Premier League. And we're going to have to do something about it. Today's rebuild is about thinking about that. We're also going to use an up-to-date database, a realistic database where they are bottom of the league, 16 games in. We're going to go see if we can save them first season and then push towards, hopefully, back towards mid-table, European spots, maybe even after that. We're going to do it semi-realistically, and I think it should be a lot of fun. Before we get into it, a reminder to subscribe to the channel if you enjoy this type of thing, if you like this type of video, and also if you've enjoyed any of the other videos on the channel too. Make sure you do subscribe. And before anything else, though, let's hear about the sponsor of today's video. Whoa, stop. Sorry to interrupt, but I have to just stop you to thank the sponsor of today's video. And that sponsor is once again the brilliant people over at OneFootball. What is OneFootball, I hear you ask? It's a free to download amazing football app, and you can download it for free, as I mentioned, by clicking the link that is in the description of today's video. It is the top link. It's the very first line of the description. Please do go and download it, and I promise you, you won't regret it if you do. It's a brilliant football app. It has anything you could possibly want. It has all of those live scores being pinged through to your phone. Brilliant for keeping up to date with the World Cup as it's going on at the moment. You can look at the team sheets, you can look at injury news, you can look at latest news, you can watch videos on there, you can read articles on there. Anything you could want really from a football app. I highly recommend it, and you can go and download it for free by clicking that link that is in the description. Thank you so much to OneFootball. Let's get back into today's video. Sorry for interrupting. Sorry. Okay, so the first thing I want to start with is having a look at this squad, because really my first impression of things is this is a talented squad with really good players in it. There are a lot of talented footballers. Straight away, you look at the likes of Neves and Nunez in there. Guedes as well was good in Spain. They've got Aitnouri, I think, is a fantastic left back. Jose Sarr was so good last year, wasn't he? There are talented players in this Wolves squad. It may just be that they're in a little bit of a transition period, because if you think of the summer, there was a lot of very well-established players who moved on, wasn't there? If I go to like Willy Bolly moving on, Dendoncker, if I go through Morgan Gibbs-White as well, was, you know, highly rated, went for big money. Obviously, you can see why he moved on. Keanu Hoover went out on loan. Roman Saiss was there for a long time. A lot of well-established players in this squad. Connor Cody, of course, I didn't even mention there. Going to Everton, slightly surprising potentially. He's done okay at Everton as well, hasn't he? A lot of established Wolves players moved on in the summer, meaning this squad, maybe it's been a bit of a reaction to that so far this year to find themselves bottom. I think we're going to go with a 4-2-3-1. I think this is the way that we're going to set up before any transfers are made. Maybe trying to utilise Neves, get the most out of him with this slightly deeper role. Maybe go with the back four so we can get Aitnouri pushing on, Semedo pushing on. I think they're better going forward than maybe they are defensively. And then maybe Guedes playing as this shadow striker, who is a position he played in Spain for Valencia. I think we might see more of him if we use him like this. And then we've got Traore on the left, Neto on the right, those on the wings there. And then up front, this is definitely an area where we're going to have to think about things. I've put Diego Costa in. I've left Raul Jimenez on the bench, and I think this is because I want to sell him in January. It's a bit sad to say, but he's certainly not been the same player since his head injury, and most of this season he's been out injured with, I think it was a groin injury, but now he's playing for Mexico at the World Cup. I think his time at Wolves may just have passed, and if we can sell him on, get some money, and then reinvest it into a proper striker that isn't 39 years old like Diego Costa, I think that's a good place to start. There's also a fair bit of dead wood actually in the squad too as I scroll through, especially players like Leo Bonatino apparently is still at the club. I mean, what is he still doing knocking about here? If we can sell him on and free up his wages and get a tiny bit of money for him, I think that's going to help. But there's one or two that I do also want to move on here. That's the first port of call for this rebuild. I'm going to go and get ourselves into January, play a few of those January games, using this system, this 4-2-3-1, see how we do in them, but really hopefully make some signings. I think we've got a little bit of money to spend. 2.6 now, a bit of wage budget. If I can sell some players too, I think there's a bit of business we can do here. And then we'll start from there. Thinking about how are we going to save them from this situation here? Bottom of the league, minus 18 goal difference. There's a lot of work to be done. We're going to have to do some magic in the transfer window. And that's going to be our first port of call. I will see you towards the end of January. Okay, so straight off the bat, the rebuild has actually well and truly begun because we've managed to put together a string of really good results. Let me show you the results since I last saw you at that World Cup break. Coming back from the World Cup on Boxing Day, we start off with this new 4-2-3-1 with Guedes in behind as the shadow striker, scoring in a 3-0 win. Diego Costa also scoring 3 goals, look, in the first 35 minutes. A 3-0 win against Everton. What a start. What a time to be alive. And I was already thinking, I told you this team is good, especially on FM. I guess it's a little bit more difficult in real life. You're not going to just see this necessarily. But on FM, if you've got talented players and you use the right system, you're going to be able to win games, aren't you? And this system seems to suit, I think. I mean, we did lose the second game 3-0 to Manchester United. Harry Maguire scored the opening in that one. But again, I think we're in the situation that we find ourselves in with Wolves. As long as we're winning the games that we should be winning, I don't think we need to worry about games against Manchester United. And we are winning those games we should be winning because we beat Aston Villa in the West Midlands derby here. Look, a 1-0 win. Ruben Neves from the penalty. Only just shading it, but we did just shade it, get the 3 points. Then we were actually fortunate to have some very nice cup draws too. FA Cup third round was against Reading. We beat them 2-0. I'll just show you the fourth round as well. Was against Hull. We beat them 2-0. Raul Jimenez, by the way, scoring 2 goals there, but keep an eye on him. We'll come to him in a second when I show you the transfers that we've made in January. The other 2 matches then were against West Ham in the league, a 3-1 win, some late goals here, penalty in the 77th minute and a 94th minute winner from Hwang Hee-chan. Again, a player that I'm not sure is going to get too many minutes, but definitely one to bring off the bench if we need him. And then the other game, this is quite a result really, a 2-2 draw with Manchester City. Jimenez and Ruben Neves scoring 83 and 85. We're showing we can definitely go all the way to the end of games. We can keep ourselves in the game if we need to. And a win against, I think they might be top, Manchester City. They are top of the league. So a very decent result from us there. And that takes us into January. It takes us, in fact, to deadline day of the January window. And I've been busy, as you would expect. As I talked about, we have been busy in the market. Now, I tried to be quite realistic with this, actually. I know the Raul Jimenez thing is maybe something of a bit of a debate for Wolves fans to have. Would you be trying to sell him in January? Let me know in the comments down below, by the way. I'm especially keen to hear from you Wolves fans about what's been done in this video. But the rest of it, I've been trying to think about who the new director of football might be looking at. Yes, there's that thing that says we should only sign Portuguese players, but there's been a lot of signings recently that haven't been Portuguese. Nathan Collins, for example, or Boubacar Traore. There have been signings recently that aren't Portuguese. It's a bit of a meme, and I guess it does make sense. There's a lot of Portuguese players, isn't there? But I've tried to look at the same markets that the director of football and Wolves seem to be looking in. With Lopetegui coming in, will they look to Spain for their next transfers? I think that might be something that happens. And so, with all of that in mind, this is the business that I did in January. And here it is then. As I mentioned earlier, I've tried to do this semi-realistically. The big one being this one here. Raul Jimenez has moved on. He's gone to Ajax for £29 million. Of course, that's one that will cause debate, I think. Although I have my reasons, and I think it just might be the end of the road for Raul Jimenez at Wolves. I'd love him to bounce back and become the striker he was. I'm just not sure he is anymore. And that's a really sad story, actually, if that is the case. But I've moved him on here. He's gone to Ajax for £29 million. I didn't actually get to spend that money all too much because it was so late in the window, the 31st, look, on deadline day. But I think we'll take that money and hopefully use it in the summer as well, where there will be some more reinforcements too, as long as we stay in the Premier League. But I think we're going to stay in the Premier League. I think we're going to be fine. I'm confident of that. The players that left were Mosquera out on loan, Mattison, Scott and Ronan also went out on loan. We talked about Leo Bonatini. Don't know why he's still here. He's gone to Santos now. And then Jimenez for £29 million. We used some of that money and the money we already had then to bring in these 4 players this January. All of them, except for Araujo, are from Spain, as we talked about, maybe looking at that market to bring players in from. They've been linked with some of these players too. Mariano especially has been linked with Wolves. That's our firepower here alongside Araujo. But let's go through them one by one. The first is Mukhtar Diakabi. He's a very me defender, isn't he? He's big, tall and strong. He's going to be a bit of a rock at the back alongside maybe Kilman, alongside, you know, those defenders. Nathan Collins in there. I think he's an upgrade on them. And for £7 million, I think it's a bit of a bargain as well. You can't really go wrong, can you, for £7 million? Then, as I talked about, 2 strikers. Mariano being one of them, on loan for Real Madrid. You see him here. He's got a lot of attributes that I think will be useful in this side. He's going to be an improvement on Diego Costa, who is, as you know, he's great, but he's quite old, isn't he? I think Mariano is an improvement on him. And then Henrique Araujo too, very highly rated youngster from Benfica. Very Wolves, this signing, isn't he? I don't think he's the finished article yet. Might be nice to try and keep him permanently and see what we can do with him. But he's going to give us a little bit more firepower too. And then finally, a very talented footballer, you know, an ex-Porto player here on loan from Sevilla now. It's Oliver, and I think he's going to be nice in this midfield, maybe with him and Nunes doing a bit of rotation. Maybe you could play him a bit further forward just behind the striker too. Maybe as that shadow striker, maybe not. He's a little bit more creative than that. But again, he's going to boost us in these areas. If we have a look at the side with a few of these players into the team, Mariano you see leading the line. You see Diakabi in alongside Kilman. This side is surely capable of staying in the Premier League. Surely capable, I think, of pushing up this table, continuing to get results like this, pushing up towards maybe mid-table. That's the aim. That's what I'm going to go and do now. Finish this season off, see where we finish, and start to think about more transfers, because that's fun, isn't it? And now we also have a little bit of money to go and spend. I actually don't know. What is the guaranteed budget for next season? I guess that does depend on us staying in the Premier League as well, doesn't it? We've got, as it loads here, we've got £34 million. So we could go and spend a bit in the summer too. Let's go and find out how we get on for the rest of this season. Okay, so end of season number 1, and I guess you're probably not surprised to hear that we did stay up. We've avoided relegation. Again, we talked about it before. It's maybe easier to avoid relegation on FM than it is in real life. We didn't need to do too much, really, in terms of our results, especially after that really good start in December and January. But after all, after some up and down results, we've finished 11th in the league. 38 games played. Now we've finished off 48 points, past that magic 40-point total that kind of guarantees you from avoiding relegation. And it was up and down, as I mentioned. Before I actually show you the results, I just need to point this out to you. Erling Haaland got 30 goals in the Premier League. And you're probably thinking, well, that's not that brilliant, right? But these stats, were only tracked from when we started our save. So from about the 26th of December. He has scored 30 goals. That's in like 22 games. He is a joke. No wonder City have won the league with 95 points. Also, maybe worth mentioning, and something I definitely want to mention, is that we started this from the realistic point. Liverpool have managed to finish second after that. They must have gone on a hell of a run. I know this is a Wolves rebuild, but I just want to see, how did Liverpool get on second half of the season? I mean, that's not too bad. They've got an FA Cup final. They lost their last 2 games as well. Maybe there was a title challenge there. Anyway, we've been distracted by Liverpool's run of form there. This was ours. You can see some of the results. You can see some of the goal scorers going through. You can see, I think, plenty of times Mariano getting himself on that goal scoring sheet. He scored 9, I think, in the second half of the season. He was our top goal scorer. We got some good results. There was wins against Newcastle here with Araujo getting the goal. We talked about him earlier. There's 3 wins on the bounce here after losing to Liverpool. Southampton, Bournemouth, Fulham, winning the games that we had to go and win. Diakabi on the score sheet as well there. We drew with Chelsea 3-3. We beat Brentford 4-1, beat Palace 3-0. We did lose games as expected. We beat Everton 3-1 there. Finally, at the end of the season, we did lose to Arsenal 2-1. But I think 11th in the Premier League is not too shabby. I'm pretty happy with it. I think it gives us a really good platform to go and improve and work on for next season. Staying in the Premier League with a decent budget to go and spend when this gets updated. There's also a few players that we are going to move on as well. Let me just show you on the squad screen if you can actually see some of the stats as well from some of the players. Again, a reminder, with this database, it only tracks the stats from when we took over, so about something of December. So the games we've actually gone and played. 9 goals from Mariano leading the line. That's not too bad, I don't think. Neto got 7 as well, played plenty of football. You can see which players were in the team from this here. If I just go down, Podence didn't play that many. He played recently, though. If I just go down, a few of the players that will move on in the summer. Moutinho will move on. He might retire, to be honest, because he's now 36 years old, but he's probably going to be moving on. I'm going to let Diego Costa move on as well. There's maybe 1 or 2 more that we're going to let go. Maybe Hwang Hee-chan I'm going to look to try and sell to. I'm going to go and do that now. I'm going to do the transfer business for the summer. Let you know how much money we've got to spend and how I'm going to go and spend it. Ready for next season. I'm thinking if we can go and get Europe for the second season, I think that's a realistic rebuild. I'm going to keep it quite realistic, I think, today. Try and bring in some players with a bit of money that we can hopefully raise. If I can push towards Europe, 7th, 8th or above, I think that might be Wolves rebuilt. Avoiding relegation, getting them back up to those sort of positions. Let's see if we can go and do it. Starting by doing our summer transfer business. I'll see you at the end of that. Okay, so I've been very busy in this transfer window, and I know that I talked about this being a realistic rebuild, and actually I still somewhat stand by that. All of these transfers, I think, are realistic signings. However, maybe not all of them happening in one window. Maybe might be the case here, although maybe it would, depending on the sales. Let me show you what I've been up to, and hopefully that will sort of make sense. The players that I've signed are on the screen now then. £111 million spent. Can you see what I mean? There's a lot of them coming in, right? Although all of them I think are pretty cheap for what they are, and all of them are players that I could see being linked with Wolves in real life. Some of them have in fact been linked with Wolves in the past too. Before we do this, actually, let me go back to last season, because some of the sales are before it ticks over onto the new season. So if I just show you, last season I did also move on these players here. Ryan Giles went for £5 million. Johnny went to West Ham for £22 million, which, again, this shows you where some of the money that we've got to spend has come from. Dion Sanderson moved on £5 million. Jack Hodnett, that's a bit of a cheap one. And Hwang Hee-chan, who was, I mean, I just don't think it really worked out for him at Wolves, did it? He moved on to Aston Villa too for £7 million. That also goes with a released player in João Moutinho that we talked about earlier. He's been released too. He's actually moved on to Fulham, I think, where they've given him a decent wage too. He's still playing. But those players have moved on. If I go back to this season's transfers then, some of the money I've spent on these players here. Again, I've raised the money by selling players. If I show you those two, £34 million being brought in. Most of that from Sasha Kaladzic. Didn't really work out for him, did it? He had that massive injury when he first joined. I just saw that we could get a bit of money for him, so he's moved on. Maybe that's unrealistic. Let me know in the comments down below, obviously. Podence has gone to Leipzig. Again, don't think we saw the best of him at Wolves. Connor Cody, I think he's on loan at Everton. He's now moved on permanently to Leicester. I'd actually imagine he moves on to Everton permanently, doesn't he? Kawabi moved on. Totti moved on. And then a lot of free transfers here, including Diego Costa, as we talked about before. Campagna too on a free. This did open up and raise quite a lot of money to go and spend. So I went to go and spend them and brought in these players here. The first of which is Jacob Greaves, a young centre-back. If I actually click on his profile properly, he's going to be a bit of a backup, I think, to Max Kilman. Similar ilk, I think, to Max Kilman. I can see Wolves going for a player like Jacob Greaves. He comes from Hull. He's played a lot of first-team football for Hull in his career too, but is still only 22 years old. He's left-footed. He's very Max Kilman, I think. So he's going to be a bit of a deputy for him. He comes in £10 million. Samu, he's the next player from Almeria. He's a central midfielder, very well-rounded, 22 years old, Portuguese. We're kind of doing the Portuguese thing here, aren't we? He was at Braga before being at Almeria. He's going to give us a little bit more options in that midfield too. Then Mariano has joined on a free transfer. He was good for us in the second half of last season. So the fact he's on a free transfer, I think would make sense to bring him in the loan and then the free transfer. Makes a lot of sense to me. Marcos Antonio is the next one, a Brazilian. Sort of goes with the Portuguese thing, doesn't he? Speaking the same language, etc. I think he's brilliant. I've really liked him in previous saves that I've done. He's at Lazio. He's come in for £10 million. I think that's a bargain here. So he comes in, another midfielder to improve us in that position on the pitch. A right back next, Thierry Rendell Carrera, a Portuguese right back, coming in for maybe Johnny, who's gone out here. Very, very good. I think a lot of you would have signed him in your FM saves, I'm sure. He joins for, how much money was it? £17 million from Valencia, shopping at the same sort of clubs as they've done in the past. Of course, Guedes came from there, didn't he? I think that's a realistic type of signing and a really good signing, actually. Then Marcus Edwards, playing in Portugal. Is that a link here? He is an Englishman, homegrown. Again, the type of signing I could see Wolves going for. Really good on FM. He was a former Spurs youngster, wasn't he? Comes in for £20 million. And then probably the big one here, Gabriel Barbosa has joined. We talked about the need for firepower. Gabigol leading the line next season. I think a lot of Wolves fans will be happy with this one. I've got a feeling he's going to score some goals for us. He's so good on FM. Look at those. He's actually getting better as well. Still only 27, can you believe, at this stage, considering how long he's been a bit of a household name, despite never really playing. Well, he's never played in England, has he? He's back in Brazil at this stage. From Flamengo, 25 million, rising to 30 million. And then finally, the last signing is Joaquin Correa, who ended up going to Manchester United in this save, but is an Argentinian. Can go and play, I think, maybe in this shadow striker role, in behind the striker that we've been using Guedes in I think he's going to be a useful signing too. Those are the signings. £111 million being spent. I've got high hopes for this Wolves team now. It's going to look a little bit like this if you start to put some of the players in. Maybe moving Guedes wide, Correa goes in, Gabigol up front, Neto's really good, Nunes, Neves, Aitnori, Kilman, Diakabi, Rendell, Correa, then Jose Sarr with Marcus Edwards, Marcos Antonio, Samu on the bench there. Oh, look, I mean, look at it. Mariano now on the bench, considering how good he was last year. Don Fabio back from his loan spell is an option too. I look at this squad and I think we can do bits with this. We can finish, I think, towards at least in those European spots. And if we do, as I mentioned before, that will probably be the rebuild complete. We have actually started the season 2 matches in. We have beaten Chelsea on the opening day, 2 from Gabigol. And then we've beaten Palace 6-1. Gabigol got 4. So, you know when I said he's going to score a lot of goals? I mean, he kind of already has. He's got 6 in 2 already. He's the Premier League top goal scorer at the moment. More goals than Haaland. As, I don't know, you can't really go wrong if you're scoring more than Haaland, can you? I'm hoping we can do a decent season here. We are predicted to finish 8th. I think we can aim just above that, 6th, 7th, and we'd be happy. I'm going to go, I think, till January now, and then I'll give you an update on how things are going. I'll see you in January. Okay, so I've actually stopped just before the halfway point in December because I don't know if it's going to get better than this. And I had to show you just how insane, first of all, Gabriel Barbosa has been. Gabigol has exploded into life. He's got 24 goals in the first half of this season. Let me just check how many of those are in the Premier League. He's got 23 in 17 Premier League matches. He is on fire. What a signing he has ended up being. And because of his goals, there's his profile there, look. Because of these goals, we find ourselves second in the league after 17 matches. Now, I talked about trying to finish in the top 8. It looks right now like we might even be in a title fight. I don't know if we can quite maintain it. We've had some weird results in there. Maybe games like losing to Man City and we drew to Spurs 4-4. We are shipping a fair few goals, even like in wins against Brentford, look, conceding 2. Drew 4-4 with West Ham. We did beat Fulham 5-1. I mean, look at those results there. We have been so good. We deserve to be in second spot. Let me just show you this side as well for some of the stats and have a look at these players. 24 goals from Gabigol. And then into these other players here. Have a look at who's been playing in this side. It's been so much fun this season. So many goals being scored. It's been good. You see Correa, look, on the left-hand side. That's just because of an injury to Aitnori. You can also see that Nunes is injured at the moment as well. That's why Samu's come in. Hasn't played too much. Most of the signings have been pretty good. There are some exceptions to that. I'll talk about them right now. Marcos Antonio hasn't really worked out. He's not been happy with the lack of game time, so he's unhappy. Similar story with Mariano this season. We might be selling him in January. Look, he's got a bid from Napoli. And then the big one, really, Marcus Edwards barely played 4 substitute appearances, and now he wants to leave in January as well. So some of them have worked. I mean, Gabigol's definitely worked. I think Samu's been good. Correa's been really, really good. Some of them haven't worked. Obviously, those ones just there. But with January approaching, we're going to go and hopefully finish towards the top of this Premier League table. Can we fight for a title? Maybe that's too much, but I just wanted to show you this now before it gets worse. Before we go on the inevitable horrible slide of form, I wanted to show you this right now. I'm going to go from this point then all the way till the end of the season. And if we achieve anything like this, that will be rebuild complete, I think. I'll see you in May. Okay, so there we have it then. We have finished, I think, with what I'm about to show you. I think we finished in a place where I think it means rebuild is complete. I know there's going to be people who are going to be like, carry on, carry on, carry on. But I always try and think of what's a realistic place to get to with each side that we rebuild. And I think we've exceeded it. We've exceeded it in this save by finishing 4th in the Premier League. We've qualified for the Champions League, for God's sake. That is outrageously good. And I think with that, I think the rebuild is well and truly complete here at Wolves. Second season, from finishing 11th first season, 4th in the second season. Gabigol got 37 goals in a whole season here. Correa ended up being our best player with a 7.38. We have been sensational this year. 75 points on the board. Just behind Man City, just behind Manchester United. Liverpool ended up winning the league with 88 points. We're above Arsenal. We're above Chelsea. We're above Spurs down in 9th there. Leeds managing to finish 6th, by the way. It was a lot of fun, this. And let me just show you as well, just before we get into some of the performances from some of the players, there was one more signing. Guilherme Arana came in as a left back. I showed you Correa playing left back from right back. I decided that actually I'd rather him stay on the right-hand side. So Arana came in as a backup for him there. There's his profile. Look, from Atletico Mineiro is where he joined from. It's been a lot of fun. Let me show you the results and then some of the player stats too. This is a really fun save. It might be a fun save to carry on with. And by the way, I will upload this save file to the Claytron as well. And you can go and check it out from there if you so wanted to, if you are a Claytron member. And yeah, here's the results. Look, there were a lot of really good results, especially early season. We saw up until about the, what was it, something of, I think we're 26 maybe of December. From there were one or two more disappointing results, like we lost to Blackburn here. Look, that's not great. Lost to Everton. There were some great results. We beat Chelsea. We lost 4-3 to Liverpool. Look, Barbosa did score twice in that one. We beat Brighton 5-1. Last game of the season, we did lose 3-0 to Leeds. That's not as good. But overall, 4th place in the Premier League. These are the player stats then. Here are, just to show you the screen, 37 goals from Gabigol, 19 from Correa from this shadow striker position. It's a really good side. It could be a side that you could go and really start to dominate with, I think, if you wanted to take it a little bit further. I didn't end up selling anybody in that January window. We kept the likes of Marcus Edwards and some of the players that weren't playing as well, like Mariano. But, and that deal with, I think it was it Napoli? Yeah, that deal ended up falling through. He's wanted by them again now, actually. But that is our Wolves rebuild. Please do let me know what you think. Were the signings realistic? Did you enjoy this type of video? Carrying on from a realistic point in a season where we use the updated database. Please do let me know in those comments down below. If you did enjoy it, make sure you do subscribe to the channel as well. But most importantly, have a lovely rest of your day. Thank you so much for watching today. I'll catch you in the next time. Subscribe to the channel. Goodbye.